When I was raising my girls, especially when they were very little, I used to refer to parenting as mortification of the flesh. That may sound a bit dramatic, but I actually remember feeling emotional pain as my life slowed down significantly. In the days before kids, I would leap out of bed in the morning for a walk or a run. Now I needed to stop and consider the girls' welfare and security. If I took them for a walk, were they properly dressed, fed, and bundled to be strapped into the double jogging stroller? And if they insisted on using their own 2 feet, was I prepared for their little toddler legs to slow me down significantly? I can still feel the ache in my back from leaning sideways to hold their chubby little hands, and the surge of frustration in my chest as they inched along at their own pace. I had been a free agent before these little girls showed up in my life. Now parenting was defining me differently. I couldn't move at breakneck speed through my days. I had these little humans who needed me to surrender some of my self-determination. I needed to slow down and let them find their footing in the world. And it was painful at the same time that it was joy-filled. God had called me to be a parent, and some days that felt like sheer blessing. Oh, the cuddling and the joy of blowing zerbits on their pudgy little bellies. But other days it felt like torture. Would my body ever stop being their sole means of sustenance? Would they ever stop hanging over me in order to stay upright? Would I ever again get a full night's sleep? And that was just in the first couple of years of their lives. It wasn't long before I turned those thoughts heavenwards, thanking God for each amazing new event and emotion I got to experience with Elizabeth and Anna, crying in lament for my ungrateful, selfish thoughts and the mistakes I had already made so early in my mothering. And I confessed, I had been deluded to think that meeting my own needs first was the height of my humanity. God was teaching me to love my neighbor in those 2 sweet and sometimes irritating little creatures that God had entrusted me with. If I had been born in Luther's time, I probably would have had a few more than 2 children. As the Monty Python song in The Meaning of Life says, every sperm is sacred. But given that the church in those days said that there was only one true holy calling, that is, to be in a religious order as a monk or a nun or a priest, I might have thought that God didn't really care much about my calling as a mom. And given the short supply of gospel grace before the Reformation, I might have pictured God more as a taskmaster than the liberator of my soul, who frees me up to turn toward my neighbor. But because I had heard Christ's word of grace, that I was fully his with or without children, and because I now had these 2 little girls in my care, I had both the responsibility and the privilege of serving them as my neighbors. Now my girls are 22 and 26. They are lovely human beings, still in formation, and I am still their mom, which I've discovered only gets more complicated in their adulthood. Now I pay attention to when I need to get out of their way and not slow them down. But I also know that God continues to call me to be their neighbor and their mother, a shoulder to cry on when work gets rough, a seasoned veteran when they need practical advice, an interested conversation partner when they want to take a walk. I have plenty to offer, but still a lot to learn, and God will be there to cheer me on when I shine and catch me when I fail miserably. How do I know? Because God abandoned self-determination in Jesus. God graciously claimed me and all of us as children, stooped down to take us by the hand and walk with us in Christ. God claimed us as neighbor in his Son. And the relationship that God continues to cultivate with us, whether we are out in nature, in our workplace, or feeding our family, it is holy. Not because we do it perfectly, but because we are loved perfectly in Christ.